Imagine a world just slightly different from our own. A gentle deviation that gradually unfolds into something far more unfamiliar. Perhaps the streets outside your window, usually bustling and alive, have become unusually silent, echoing a quiet emptiness that somehow feels profound. The warm glow of street lamps, so comforting on normal evenings, now casts a soft, unsettling glow on deserted roads. Nature, usually relegated to the background of human activity, gently reclaims its space, weaving new greenery through the cracks in the sidewalks and along empty highways. There's an undeniable quiet beauty here. Yet beneath that beauty lingers a subtle, lingering sense of unease. Why does this vision captivate us so profoundly? Why do scenarios of dystopia, these unsettling but oddly comforting pictures of our potential futures, resonate so deeply within our collective consciousness? Humans have always been storytellers. From our earliest ancestors, gathering around fires beneath expansive starlit skies, we've imagined futures both wondrous and terrifying. We painted our fears onto the walls of caves, etched warnings into stone, and whispered anxieties into tales that survived countless generations. Dystopia, in a sense, is not a modern invention, but rather an ancient mirror, reflecting humanity's timeless and deepest anxieties, our fears of loss, survival, and the profound uncertainty of tomorrow. Gently consider this. Dystopian stories have become more than mere entertainment. They serve as quiet mirrors, offering reflections of our collective fears, desires, and moral dilemmas. These narratives, whether portrayed in literature, film, or whispered conversations, do more than simply frighten or unsettle. They resonate because they engage deeply with the core of what it means to be human. They speak softly to our shared instincts for survival, adaptation, and resilience. Throughout human history, dystopia has existed as a subtle undercurrent, quietly surfacing during moments of societal stress or crisis. Consider gently the myths of ancient civilizations, each echoing humanity's fears and anxieties. The fall of Rome, for instance, wasn't just historical. It also became symbolic, a whispered story of collapse that haunted European imagination for centuries afterward. Civilizations rise and fall, gently teaching us through their quiet disappearance that stability is fragile and continuity uncertain. We find similar patterns throughout history. During wars, pandemics, and societal upheavals, the tales we told during the Black Death in medieval Europe quietly resonated with the same emotional threads found in today's dystopian literature: isolation, survival, and the profound fragility of human connections. Then, just as now, imagining dystopian outcomes allowed people to quietly confront and prepare themselves mentally and emotionally for uncertainty. Yet you might softly wonder, what is it about these stories that feels strangely soothing, despite their unsettling nature? How can something designed to portray a world gone awry also gently comfort or quietly prepare us? Imagine for a moment the concept of mental rehearsal, a gentle psychological process where the mind quietly rehearses potential outcomes in a controlled environment. Dystopian stories function similarly, creating safe spaces for us to explore our deepest fears without direct risk. The quiet comfort we derive from dystopian visions comes from this peculiar yet profound sense of psychological preparedness. By quietly experiencing these unsettling scenarios through imagination, we gain a subtle sense of readiness, reassurance, or even empowerment, knowing that we've mentally explored our deepest anxieties before they become realities. But dystopian visions also quietly reveal deeper aspects of humanity's adaptability and resilience. Humans possess an extraordinary ability to quietly adjust to shifting realities, transforming hardship into strength. History gently whispers countless examples of societies that endured immense struggles, yet emerged transformed, sometimes stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. The calm contemplation of dystopia allows us to reflect upon and appreciate this hidden resilience within ourselves. Consider gently the real-world examples of survivors in extreme scenarios. Individuals who quietly adjusted to sudden upheaval and crisis. Refugees forced from their homes by war. Families rebuilding after natural disasters. Or entire communities reshaping themselves after economic collapse. Each story gently echoes the profound capacity of humans to adapt and evolve in the face of tremendous adversity. Each is a quiet testament to our hidden strength, a subtle reminder that survival is often accompanied by remarkable creativity, ingenuity, and emotional depth. In dystopian fiction, too, we witness quietly moving portrayals of humanity's resilience. These stories often center on ordinary individuals, quietly adapting, connecting, and surviving in circumstances that initially seem unimaginable. We see characters form communities in abandoned cities, establish new traditions amidst chaos, and quietly forge powerful emotional bonds when external structures collapse. Perhaps this is another reason dystopia resonates deeply. We recognize in these fictional portrayals our innate human strength, quietly affirming our hidden capacity to endure. Yet there remains a quiet, yet unsettling truth beneath this reflection. As fascinating as dystopia might be, the reality of such scenarios would inevitably entail profound suffering and loss. We must gently acknowledge that these imagined worlds, while intellectually stimulating, carry profound ethical and emotional implications. The quiet tension between fascination and dread that dystopian narratives evoke reflects our deeper anxieties about moral compromise, societal decay, and what it truly means to survive. Quietly reflect on this subtle paradox. We are drawn to imagine scenarios that simultaneously terrify and comfort us. Scenarios that allow us to safely explore boundaries we instinctively fear. Is it possible that in quietly imagining these unsettling futures, we're subconsciously reinforcing our desire to protect and preserve the best aspects of our current world? Could dystopian narratives paradoxically be quietly reminding us of what truly matters? Our humanity, our connections, our dignity, and our shared vulnerability. Perhaps dystopian dreams linger quietly in our subconscious, precisely because they gently remind us to cherish what we might otherwise take for granted. Our relationships, communities, stability, and the ordinary, often overlooked beauty of daily life, become infinitely more precious when imagined through the gentle lens of their possible loss. The fascination we feel toward dystopian futures might also softly point to a quiet yearning for clarity and purpose. In times of crisis, both real and imagined, our priorities become clearer, our actions more intentional, and our connections deeper. These unsettling visions gently highlight the aspects of our existence that matter most: solidarity, compassion, and human dignity. Imagining dystopia is thus not merely about confronting our fears, but quietly reconnecting with the core values that define and sustain us as human beings. Now softly pause to reflect. As unsettling as dystopian scenarios can be, perhaps their greatest gift lies in quietly showing us our capacity to care, connect, and endure. Perhaps the gentle anxiety they induce is necessary, prompting us to quietly evaluate and appreciate the present, urging us softly to take action, strengthen connections, and strive for meaningful change. before those unsettling futures might become real. Gently breathe now, embracing the quiet complexity and the deeply human nature of this contemplation. As we venture deeper into this intellectual journey tonight, remember softly that exploring dystopian futures is less about fear than about quietly acknowledging and honoring our capacity for profound resilience. Breathe softly as we venture deeper into humanity's hidden resilience. Within each of us quietly hums a subtle yet profound truth. We are biological beings, gently guided by instincts deeply woven into our DNA. Although civilization has wrapped us softly in comfort, technology, and security, beneath these modern comforts lies a quiet whisper, an ancient instinctual voice urging us towards survival. This innate drive, both powerful and invisible, shapes not only our behaviors, but subtly influences our very thoughts, emotions, and even dreams. Survival is perhaps the most primal of all instincts. Long before we had language, societies, or even structured thought, survival was quietly inscribed within our very cells, passed down gently through countless generations. Imagine, softly, the lives of our distant ancestors, beings who lived daily with constant subtle awareness of threat. Wild animals, starvation, unpredictable weather. Every step taken, every decision made, echoed quietly with the urgent need to ensure their continued existence. Over millions of years, these primal instincts were softly refined, etched into the biology of humanity, shaping not only physical responses, but subtly guiding emotional, psychological, and social behaviors. Why, you might softly wonder, is the instinct for survival so compelling? The quiet answer lies in biology itself. At the heart of human existence is the drive toward continuity, not only of the individual, but of the species as a whole. Survival instincts are gently designed to preserve life, guiding us towards safety, nourishment, reproduction, and ultimately toward passing these precious biological codes onward through time. Survival instincts represent, in their most basic form, the gentle, persistent desire of life itself to continue. Quietly consider, for example, the experience of fear, a powerful, deeply human emotion often associated with survival. Fear is not merely an unpleasant sensation. It is a carefully crafted biological tool designed by evolution to quietly steer us away from harm and toward safety. When confronted with immediate danger, a wild animal, an unexpected threat, our bodies quietly yet swiftly shift into an instinctive survival mode known as the fight or flight response. Let us gently unpack this biological phenomenon further, exploring the profound intricacies quietly occurring within the body when faced with danger. The fight or flight response begins gently and instantly. The moment our brain senses potential harm, a quiet alarm is triggered deep within the hypothalamus, the subtle command center at the heart of our brain. Soft signals cascade through the nervous system, releasing hormones, most notably adrenaline and cortisol, into the bloodstream. These hormones, swiftly and silently, flood our system, creating profound physiological changes intended to optimize our bodies for survival. Adrenaline quietly accelerates our heartbeat, pushing oxygen-rich blood swiftly into the muscles, preparing them subtly yet decisively for action. Our breathing quickens, subtly flooding the bloodstream with vital oxygen, sharpening senses, heightening awareness, and enhancing the clarity and speed of our thoughts. Cortisol, gently yet persistently, mobilizes stored energy, converting it into readily accessible forms, such as glucose, allowing rapid bursts of strength or speed if necessary. Even our senses, often taken for granted, subtly intensify during this moment of instinctual urgency. Eyesight sharpens, hearing becomes more acute, and our sense of touch quietly becomes hypersensitive, all carefully tuned to detect danger. Imagine softly the quiet yet potent clarity one feels in moments of genuine threat. There is no ambiguity, no distraction, only pure, decisive action. This biological clarity, guided gently by instincts, was invaluable to our ancestors, who navigated a world filled with constant threats. Yet, consider quietly how these instincts, forged gently through thousands of generations, fit into the complex fabric of our modern lives. In contemporary society, our threats are usually less immediate, more subtle, yet they quietly persist. Stressors in modern life, job uncertainty, financial worries, social pressures, digital anxieties, can softly trigger these ancient biological responses, often repeatedly and unnecessarily. Our bodies, subtly guided by instincts crafted in far simpler times, respond to these perceived threats with the same urgency as they would genuine physical dangers. The quiet irony is profound. What once was adaptive and necessary for survival now, paradoxically, can quietly harm us. Chronic stress, resulting from repeated unnecessary triggering of our instinctual fight or flight response, quietly yet significantly impacts our physical and emotional health, leading to conditions such as anxiety, depression, heart disease, and fatigue. Now gently consider the deeper implications of this paradox. Are our survival instincts, once carefully tailored for an ancestral world, filled with tangible, immediate threats, quietly becoming outdated echoes in the complexity of modern existence? Or is it possible these instincts still hold subtle wisdom for us, if only we could learn gently how to harmonize them with the nuances of contemporary life? In this gentle contemplation, we might reflect softly on how our instincts manifest subtly in everyday life, often unnoticed, but quietly shaping our behavior and choices. The subtle anxiety you feel before an important meeting or presentation. This is your survival instinct, softly activating, alerting you to prepare thoroughly. The quiet apprehension experienced in unfamiliar environments, subtly nudging you toward caution, is again a whisper of your survival biology, gently guiding your decisions towards safety. Even social anxiety, quietly discomforting as it may be, softly reflects our biological heritage, a profound instinctual need to remain safely within a trusted group, a deeply human survival strategy honed by thousands of years of evolutionary necessity. Yet softly acknowledge also the potential disconnect, the tension between instinctual impulses and the complex demands of modern society. A sudden panic attack during an important conversation, for example, represents survival instincts quietly misfiring, mistaking a social interaction for a life-threatening scenario. In these moments, survival instincts subtly yet powerfully disrupt rather than support our well-being. Could it be that these instincts, so quietly helpful in ancient settings, need gentle recalibration for modern contexts? One gentle solution, softly emerging from contemporary psychology and neuroscience, is mindfulness, an ancient practice refined subtly through modern understanding. Mindfulness allows individuals to gently observe their instinctual reactions, softly acknowledging their presence without immediately reacting to them. Through mindfulness, we gently re-establish harmony, softly teaching our instincts to become subtle guides rather than urgent masters. This practice quietly encourages a calmer, more thoughtful relationship with our instincts, integrating rather than suppressing these ancient echoes into our contemporary experience. Quietly then, we might softly reflect on another subtle truth. Perhaps it is not our instincts themselves that have become outdated, but rather our relationship to them. Perhaps survival instincts remain as relevant, necessary, and quietly powerful as ever, but we must learn to listen gently, attentively, understanding when to heed their quiet guidance and when to softly reassure them that we are safe. Modern life calls softly for an evolution not of our biology, but of our self-awareness and emotional intelligence, a gentle learning process that harmonizes ancient instincts with modern sensibilities. Imagine softly, as you listen, how gently empowering it might feel to understand and acknowledge your instincts rather than quietly resist or fear them. By softly integrating instincts with conscious thought, we gain access to a deeper, more subtle form of wisdom, one that combines ancient intuition with contemporary understanding. Imagine quietly how much stronger, wiser, and calmer we might become by gently harmonizing our instinctual biology with the complex realities of modern life. In this quiet reflection, allow yourself softly to acknowledge your own instincts right now. Gently become aware of your body, how softly it breathes, how subtly your heart beats, how quietly it signals comfort or discomfort. This quiet awareness, this gentle listening, represents the first subtle step toward deeper understanding and harmony with your instincts. So pause and reflect softly now, gently considering how your instincts are guiding you at this very moment. Notice quietly if there's tension or relaxation, if your body subtly signals safety or unease. This quiet reflection is a gentle invitation to trust, to listen, and to softly recalibrate your instincts, transforming them from ancient echoes into subtle guides, perfectly attuned to your present reality. Pause and reflect. How are your instincts guiding you right now? Gently close your eyes for a moment and quietly envision a delicate flower sprouting softly in the midst of an inhospitable desert. Imagine this small bloom, fragile, gentle, seemingly ill-equipped for harsh winds, intense heat, and the scarcity of water, yet, paradoxically, thriving beautifully against all odds. Nature softly whispers a profound lesson through this simple image. Fragility and resilience are not mutually exclusive. Rather, they gently coexist, subtly intertwined within the very essence of life. This subtle paradox of fragility and adaptation is quietly woven into the fabric of human existence itself. Consider gently the softness of human skin, the delicate balance of our internal systems, the quiet vulnerability we possess as biological creatures. We seem at first glance profoundly fragile, dependent on specific conditions, vulnerable to small disruptions, our bodies easily harmed by injury, illness, or changes in our environment. Yet, beneath this gentle surface lies a quiet strength, a remarkable capacity for adaptation and resilience that has allowed humanity to flourish in nearly every environment on Earth. Human existence is softly balanced on this quiet, yet powerful paradox. We are fragile enough to be harmed by a microscopic virus, yet resilient enough to rebuild entire civilizations after devastating events. It is this gentle tension between vulnerability and adaptability that quietly fuels the biological miracle of human evolution, a subtle, ongoing story, quietly unfolding over countless generations. Evolution itself, gently observed, is a quiet narrative of adaptation. Charles Darwin once softly described it as a gentle dance of natural selection, a quiet, subtle process whereby those organisms most attuned to their environments softly thrive, reproduce, and pass their adaptive traits forward. Through this slow yet powerful mechanism, life quietly and persistently transforms itself, ensuring survival amidst constant change. Humans, too, have been softly shaped by this evolutionary dance, gently refined through millions of years of subtle yet persistent pressures. Imagine gently, thousands of generations ago, our ancestors, fragile, vulnerable beings, quietly navigating a world of untamed wilderness and unknown threats. They possessed no claws, no sharp teeth, no protective armor. Their strength lay gently elsewhere, in the subtle capacities of intellect, creativity, social cooperation, and adaptation. Over millennia, human beings learned gently to adapt, to shape the world around them, subtly yet powerfully, transforming their vulnerabilities into strengths. This quiet adaptability has allowed humanity to flourish in remarkably diverse environments, from the frozen landscapes of the Arctic to the sweltering jungles of the tropics, from high mountain peaks to dense urban environments. Each new habitat presented quiet challenges that humans met gently yet decisively, adapting culturally, socially, and biologically. Like that fragile desert flower softly finding ways to bloom, humanity too has found gentle ways to flourish, even in the harshest climates and most challenging conditions. Consider gently, for a moment, how subtle yet powerful this human capacity for adaptation truly is. Cultures around the world quietly illustrate this point, each gently shaped by distinct geographical and environmental challenges. Desert peoples developed subtle techniques for water conservation, quietly thriving in landscapes that at first appear barren. Arctic societies adapted gently to extreme cold, crafting homes, clothing and traditions perfectly suited to their environment. Even our physical biology subtly reflects this remarkable adaptability. Quietly, gently, humanity has evolved a spectrum of adaptations, varying skin tones to match sunlight conditions, metabolic adjustments to altitude or diet, and genetic variations finely tuned to resist local diseases. Softly, evolution has crafted humans into masters of quiet adaptation, fragile yet resilient beings, continuously and gently reshaped by their environment. Yet softly, we must also acknowledge that adaptation has limits, quiet boundaries defined by the speed and severity of change itself. Historically, evolution proceeds gently, subtly, over many generations. Humans adapted to shifts in climate over thousands of years, gently adjusting their biology and culture to slowly unfolding conditions. But what happens? Quietly ask yourself, when changes are no longer gradual but rapid, intense, and deeply unpredictable. When scenarios we once considered merely dystopian visions suddenly begin quietly emerging in reality. Modern society softly faces unprecedented challenges. Climate change, pandemics, rapid technological advances, and societal disruption now quietly test our ability to adapt faster than ever before. This gentle yet urgent reality asks profound, subtle questions about our resilience. Can human society adapt as swiftly as nature now demands? Or might our innate fragility become quietly apparent, revealing vulnerabilities we have yet to fully recognize or appreciate? Reflect gently upon this quiet, yet crucial dilemma. Our contemporary world often feels simultaneously stable and perilously fragile. Our vast cities, global economy, complex technological systems, all represent remarkable human adaptability, yet remain quietly vulnerable to disruptions. A single unexpected event, a sudden pandemic, a technological failure, an ecological crisis can quietly ripple through these interconnected systems, softly yet rapidly challenging our collective ability to adapt. Perhaps gently, we have built worlds of extraordinary sophistication. Yet quietly, we have become increasingly dependent upon systems whose fragility we often fail to fully acknowledge. Yet here, softly, lies another subtle paradox. Adaptation itself does not always require lengthy periods or purely biological changes. Humans possess the quiet power of cultural adaptation, a subtle yet swift form of resilience. Unlike purely biological evolution, cultural adaptation can occur within a single generation, gently reshaping social behaviors, beliefs, and practices almost overnight. Imagine quietly how societies rapidly adapted to recent global crises. Millions adjusting to new patterns of work, communication, and living almost instantaneously. A quiet testament to humanity's extraordinary cultural resilience. Consider gently the quiet strength embedded within our vulnerability, our capacity to forge new relationships, to reinvent systems, to build communities around mutual support and compassion in the face of sudden disruption. While our physical bodies gently evolve over millennia, our minds, communities, and cultures can quietly adapt within weeks, months, or even days. This remarkable social adaptability might softly represent our greatest asset in confronting rapidly unfolding dystopian scenarios. Yet gently we must remain cautious, quietly aware of our vulnerabilities, acknowledging that even our extraordinary adaptability requires support, foresight, and collective effort. Adaptation does not happen softly in isolation. It is quietly nurtured by cooperation, creativity, and mutual trust. Without this gentle foundation, our fragility quietly intensifies, making resilience far more challenging. Now softly, consider the deeper reflections emerging from this exploration. Perhaps our fragility and adaptability are not opposites, but quiet partners, subtly intertwined, each dependent upon the other. Our vulnerability gently encourages us toward empathy, community, and creativity, qualities that quietly amplify our resilience. At the same time, our capacity to adapt softly reassures us, reminding us that even in the face of profound uncertainty, we possess quiet strength, quietly awaiting activation when most needed. Perhaps quietly, human survival in the face of dystopian futures depends less upon eradicating fragility than upon embracing it. By gently acknowledging our vulnerabilities, we become quietly stronger, more adaptable, better prepared to face sudden changes with calm clarity. Our fragility gently reminds us of our interconnectedness, softly urging cooperation and mutual support. Our adaptability reassures us softly that change, even rapid change, can be met creatively, courageously, and compassionately. Slowly breathe now, gently allowing these reflections to settle quietly within you. Acknowledge softly your own fragility, yet gently recognize the subtle resilience that has carried humanity through countless generations of challenge and change. Know quietly that the future, however uncertain, offers gentle opportunities for adaptation, creativity, and deeper human connection. Slowly, breathe as we delve further into the mysteries of human connection. Gently allow your thoughts to drift toward a quiet moment. Perhaps an image softly forming in your mind of a single thread, thin, delicate, and nearly invisible. Alone, this thread seems insignificant, easily overlooked, fragile enough to be broken by a simple touch. Yet, gently envision countless threads intertwined, woven together into a complex and resilient tapestry. Quietly, softly, each individual thread now gains strength, significance, and purpose through connection. Human relationships can be softly visualized in much the same way. Each one an invisible thread, quietly linking us together, forming vast emotional networks that sustain, comfort, and strengthen us, even in our most challenging moments. These connections, subtle yet profoundly powerful, define our experience of life, shaping our sense of meaning, purpose, and identity. Quietly, gently, we come to understand that to be human is to seek connection, intimacy, and community, not simply as a comfort, but as an essential element of survival itself. In a dystopian context, this quiet necessity becomes starkly apparent. When the familiar structures of society gently erode, when the stability of daily life quietly dissolves into uncertainty, the instinctive human desire for connection intensifies, becoming not merely beneficial, but vital. Gently consider why, in times of crisis, individuals instinctively turn toward each other rather than retreating into isolation. At such times, quietly and subtly, relationships become lifelines, offering emotional support, practical assistance, and reassurance in the face of overwhelming fear or anxiety. These invisible threads, our emotional connections, quietly offer strength in subtle yet powerful ways. Imagine softly a community experiencing sudden hardship, such as a devastating natural disaster or the slow unraveling of social order. Alone, individuals feel deeply vulnerable, helpless, easily overwhelmed by uncertainty or despair. Yet quietly, subtly, something remarkable occurs as connections begin to form or strengthen. Strangers softly become allies, neighbors gently turn toward one another, forming invisible networks of mutual support and cooperation. Within these emotional networks, the quiet burden of survival is gently shared, each connection subtly amplifying strength, courage, and resilience. In many ways, this quiet phenomenon reveals the deeply social nature of humanity itself, our evolutionary heritage, gently reminding us that survival is rarely an individual endeavor. Our ancestors relied profoundly upon social cohesion, emotional bonds, and mutual trust to navigate hostile environments, find food, and protect each other from predators. These subtle emotional bonds, gently forged through trust and shared experiences, evolved to ensure our collective survival, quietly shaping us into beings who instinctively seek connection, community, and intimacy. Now, gently consider this truth in modern contexts. Our emotional networks quietly sustain us, even in conditions far less dramatic than dystopia. Every relationship, every quiet moment of connection, every gentle expression of empathy subtly strengthens these invisible threads, providing emotional resilience in subtle, often unnoticed ways. The simple act of sharing worries with a friend, quietly expressing empathy to a family member, or softly experiencing intimacy with a loved one, all quietly reinforce these emotional networks, fortifying us gently against loneliness, stress, and despair. Yet softly, in dystopian scenarios, the value and necessity of emotional connections become urgently evident. When external structures collapse, social, economic, political relationships quietly emerge as primary sources of stability. Consider softly the subtle strength communities display in times of crisis, quickly forming networks to share food, resources, and emotional support. History quietly whispers countless examples: people sheltering neighbors during war, communities organizing quietly to rebuild after catastrophes, even strangers forming deep emotional bonds in shared struggles. In these profound moments, quietly, gently, emotional networks transform fragility into resilience, despair into hope, and isolation into solidarity. Pause quietly and gently reflect further on this subtle yet profound human truth. Connections, intimacy, and community are not merely social conveniences. Instead, they represent deeply embedded survival strategies, quietly cultivated over millennia. The invisible threads of emotional connection quietly assure us of our place within a larger tapestry, gently reminding us that we are never truly alone, even in our darkest moments. Yet softly consider now a deeper, more unsettling reflection. What happens when these connections begin to fray, weaken, or disappear entirely? Imagine quietly a scenario where individuals are disconnected, isolated, left without the emotional networks that gently sustain meaning and resilience. Without these quiet threads of connection, would survival itself lose its deeper purpose? Would we find ourselves alive physically, yet quietly, drifting, lacking any profound emotional anchor to sustain us? This subtle reflection quietly invites us into an existential contemplation. Would life without connection still retain meaning, or would it quietly fade into mere existence? To survive biologically, one requires food, water, shelter, but gently reflect upon the subtle truth that survival alone does not necessarily imply a meaningful life. Humans softly require more than mere physical existence. We thrive on connection, intimacy, and the subtle, yet profound emotional sustenance they provide. Gently consider the phenomenon of loneliness, quiet yet profound isolation that can occur even in crowded cities. Individuals surrounded by others can quietly feel deeply disconnected, emotionally isolated, as if those invisible threads have softly unraveled. Studies gently indicate loneliness significantly impacts health, subtly yet profoundly weakening immune responses, increasing stress, anxiety, and depression. Quietly, loneliness acts as a gentle yet persistent reminder that emotional connections are vital, not only for psychological well-being, but also for physical survival. Now softly, quietly, imagine the profound difference emotional networks make, even in dystopian scenarios. When individuals gently maintain emotional bonds, even amidst profound struggle, survival becomes not merely possible, but meaningful. The gentle presence of love, trust, empathy, or simply shared humanity quietly transforms survival from mere existence into something far deeper and richer, life itself. Gently allow yourself to imagine quietly the profound beauty hidden within this truth. Emotional connections quietly represent our most powerful resource, subtly ensuring not only our physical survival, but also preserving our humanity. These invisible threads quietly sustain hope, dignity, compassion, and joy, even amidst overwhelming despair or fear. Consider softly how, even in moments of deep uncertainty or fear, it is our connections that quietly sustain us, providing emotional nourishment and profound reassurance. Imagine quietly the subtle, yet powerful impact of a gentle embrace, a reassuring word, a simple glance filled with empathy and understanding. These seemingly small gestures quietly strengthen emotional bonds, quietly transforming fragility into resilience. Softly, quietly, ask yourself now, in your own life, how have these invisible emotional threads gently shaped your experiences? Recall gently those moments when a simple connection transformed your perspective, quietly alleviating loneliness, subtly restoring hope or courage. Quietly acknowledge the powerful yet subtle presence of these emotional networks, gently recognizing that they quietly represent your deepest source of strength. Yet softly, as you gently reflect, also consider how easily these threads can become neglected or weakened. Modern life, quietly yet persistently, encourages isolation, digital distractions, and individualism. Subtle yet profound forces that threaten the integrity of our emotional networks. Dystopian scenarios quietly reveal the profound dangers of neglecting connection, reminding us gently that survival without community is incomplete, subtly yet deeply unsatisfying. Quietly now, softly allow yourself to reconnect with the gentle wisdom hidden within these reflections. Emotional networks are quietly essential, not only in times of crisis, but also during everyday life, softly sustaining our humanity and emotional resilience. Perhaps gently, the greatest lesson of dystopian visions is their subtle reminder that connection is our greatest strength, quietly powerful, profoundly necessary, and deeply human. Breathe gently now, softly reflecting upon your own emotional networks, quietly acknowledging their subtle yet profound impact on your existence. Allow yourself quietly to feel gratitude, gently recognizing the profound value of each invisible thread connecting you softly to others. Breathe gently and consider how your connections shape your existence. 4.5. Imagine softly, if you will, a gentle stream quietly flowing through a tranquil forest, almost unnoticed, yet subtly vital, nourishing the life around it. In much the same way, within each of us quietly flows a hidden river, softly guiding our emotions, shaping our reactions, influencing how we perceive, respond, and adapt to our environment. This gentle current, invisible yet profoundly powerful, is composed of hormones, the quiet chemical messengers that silently influence our innermost feelings, instincts, and choices, especially in moments of crisis. Hormones, gently secreted by glands throughout our bodies, quietly orchestrate an intricate chemical choreography beneath our conscious awareness. Their subtle influence gently permeates our experiences, from moments of intense joy to quiet periods of deep anxiety or fear. Yet, it is in times of crisis, moments when our stability softly unravels and threats appear suddenly, that these chemical signals quietly assume their most potent roles, swiftly and subtly altering our emotions and behavior. Picture quietly how, during moments of sudden danger or uncertainty, your body instinctively responds. Perhaps your heart gently quickens, your breath subtly shortens, your muscles softly tense in anticipation. These responses, quietly, involuntary, yet vividly felt, are orchestrated subtly, yet powerfully, by hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. These quiet messengers flow swiftly through your bloodstream, subtly preparing your body for action, heightening your senses, sharpening your awareness, and quietly guiding your emotional response. Consider cortisol, often softly labeled as the body's stress hormone, a chemical quietly released during prolonged stress or uncertainty. This hormone subtly regulates our reaction to ongoing threats, gently keeping us alert, attentive, and ready to act. Yet gently reflect also on cortisol's quieter role. When stress becomes chronic, the persistent presence of this chemical can quietly alter our mood, subtly shaping our perceptions, gently intensifying feelings of anxiety, fear, and even isolation. Yet cortisol, though softly crucial in moments of danger, is only one player in this gentle chemical dance. Quietly, dopamine, the hormone associated with reward, motivation, and pleasure, also influences our responses in times of crisis. Gently, consider dopamine's subtle yet profound effect on human behavior. In moments of profound uncertainty, dopamine softly encourages behaviors necessary for survival, motivating us gently to seek out essential resources, to strive persistently, even amidst hardship. Its quiet presence subtly reinforces behaviors that help us adapt, rewarding actions that ensure our survival or well-being. Imagine softly now how dopamine gently shapes your experiences, even in quieter moments. The subtle sense of satisfaction after completing a difficult task, the quiet comfort derived from achieving small goals, even amidst crisis. These gentle, emotional rewards are dopamine's quiet way of subtly guiding our choices, softly encouraging us toward behaviors that ensure our well-being. Yet softly, perhaps the most profound and subtle chemical influence during times of crisis comes quietly from oxytocin, often referred to gently as the bonding hormone or love hormone. Oxytocin quietly fosters social connection, intimacy, trust, and emotional bonding. Softly released during comforting interactions, touch, closeness, reassurance, oxytocin gently yet powerfully strengthens emotional bonds between individuals, subtly reinforcing trust, compassion, and collective action. In moments of deep crisis or profound threat, oxytocin quietly becomes a hidden yet essential ally, softly encouraging individuals toward mutual support, cooperation, and communal trust. Gently reflect upon historical or personal experiences of collective crisis, natural disasters, periods of war, societal disruptions, where communities quietly responded by coming closer together, softly forming deeper emotional bonds, reinforcing mutual trust, and collectively finding strength. Oxytocin, subtly yet profoundly, helps ensure survival by gently promoting these emotional connections, quietly transforming vulnerability into collective resilience. Consider softly how, even in the bleakest moments, a simple gesture, gentle touch, quiet reassurance, compassionate embrace can subtly shift emotional experiences, quietly soothing anxiety, reducing fear, and reinforcing trust. Oxytocin softly facilitates these profound emotional shifts, gently guiding individuals toward connection rather than isolation, cooperation rather than conflict. Now quietly consider the subtle yet powerful implications of this hidden chemical choreography. Hormones, although silent and invisible, profoundly shape our emotions, choices, and behaviors. They softly guide our perceptions, gently influencing how we interpret our environment, how we respond to others, and how we emotionally navigate crises. Yet, as these chemical signals quietly operate beneath conscious awareness, we are gently invited to reflect upon an unsettling yet profound question. To what extent are our emotional experiences truly our own? Softly reflect for a moment upon this quiet yet profound contemplation. If hormones subtly shape our emotions, guiding our behavior quietly yet decisively, are our choices genuinely free or quietly determined by these invisible chemical messengers? Are our deepest emotional responses trust, fear, affection, motivation quietly choreographed by chemical impulses? Or do we retain a deeper, subtler freedom within this biochemical dance? The quiet answer gently lies in the subtle balance between biology and consciousness. While hormones undoubtedly influence our emotions and behaviors, they gently do so by setting the stage rather than dictating precise actions. Like quiet music softly playing in the background, hormones subtly influence our emotional landscape, but do not entirely control our conscious choices. Within the quiet spaces between chemical impulses and conscious awareness, we softly retain the capacity to reflect, choose, and act intentionally, even amidst profound biochemical influence. Yet softly, Acknowledging this chemical choreography quietly deepens our understanding of human behavior, gently reminding us of the biological foundations beneath emotional experiences. This subtle recognition invites profound empathy, quietly urging us toward compassion for ourselves and others. Understanding the quiet yet powerful influence of hormones helps us gently comprehend why individuals respond differently to crises, subtly acknowledging the biochemical variations that quietly shape resilience, vulnerability, and emotional responses. Now gently, softly, consider another subtle yet profound implication. If our emotional bonds and trust are quietly reinforced by hormones like oxytocin, does this diminish the authenticity of our connections or quietly enhance their depth and significance? Imagine softly that emotional bonds, rather than being purely biological in origin, represent a subtle, beautiful intersection between biology and choice, quietly crafted through shared experiences, mutual trust, and conscious effort. The quiet presence of oxytocin does not diminish connection, but subtly underscores its profound importance, gently reminding us that humans evolved not merely to survive physically but emotionally, socially, and collectively. In dystopian scenarios, this quiet understanding gains particular significance. When external structures quietly dissolve, when stability softly erodes, emotional bonds quietly become essential survival resources. Understanding how hormones subtly reinforce these bonds gently provides deeper insight into our innate biological wisdom, softly reminding us that our greatest survival strategy is not isolation but connection, not individualism but collective trust. Quietly, softly, allow yourself now to reflect upon these gentle insights, acknowledging the subtle yet powerful role hormones play in quietly shaping your emotional responses, behaviors, and connections. Perhaps gently, you might now view your emotional experiences with greater empathy, understanding that beneath every feeling lies quiet biochemical wisdom, subtly guiding your survival, connection, and well-being. Yet softly, remain quietly conscious of your subtle capacity for choice, the gentle freedom within hormonal influence, allowing conscious reflection, intentional response, and compassionate action, even amidst powerful biochemical guidance. Perhaps the greatest lesson hormones quietly offer is this subtle balance. Our biology gently supports and influences us, but it is our conscious awareness that softly provides true freedom, allowing us to choose how we respond, connect, and survive. Pause for a moment as we explore deeper into the ethical heart of survival. Imagine softly, if you will, a lifeboat gently floating in the middle of a quiet ocean, miles from land. The vessel is small, so small in fact, that it can only safely carry a limited number of passengers. Yet here, softly drifting in endless water, sit more people than the fragile boat can hold. The gentle sea whispers quietly beneath, a subtle reminder that this peacefulness masks profound danger. In this moment, a quiet yet deeply unsettling question emerges, unavoidable and profound. Who stays in the boat, and who must be gently cast aside? This lifeboat scenario is more than a mere hypothetical. It softly represents a philosophical thought experiment, gently known as lifeboat ethics, a subtle yet stark exploration of ethical boundaries in the face of crisis. It quietly forces us to confront profound moral dilemmas, gently questioning what sacrifices we consider acceptable, necessary, or even justified when survival itself is at stake. Now gently imagine this scenario, softly scaled up, quietly translated into real-world situations. Perhaps a natural disaster, a famine, a pandemic, or even a slow descent into societal collapse. Suddenly, decisions quietly carry immense weight, subtly yet profoundly impacting human lives, dignity, and the very fabric of morality. How do we gently decide who receives scarce medical treatment, who gains access to limited resources, or who quietly must bear the heaviest sacrifices? In dystopian scenarios, these ethical dilemmas become softly unavoidable, quietly confronting individuals and societies alike with deeply unsettling yet crucial questions about moral boundaries. Quietly consider, for instance, the gentle yet stark realities that arise in conditions of resource scarcity. Imagine a situation of prolonged drought, softly unfolding over months, where water, usually taken for granted, becomes quietly precious, scarce, and necessary for survival. Communities gently face impossible questions about allocation, subtly forced to choose who receives water and who does not. Such scenarios quietly invoke profound moral reflection. Should resources be gently prioritized by vulnerability, social contribution, chance, or some other criterion? And who, softly ask yourself, holds the authority to make these profound decisions? These quiet ethical dilemmas invite gentle, yet profound reflection, softly forcing us to confront the deeper question: what exactly are we willing to sacrifice for survival? Are there ethical boundaries that must never be quietly crossed, even when survival itself hangs in the balance? And softly, who truly decides what these boundaries should be? History quietly whispers countless examples of these ethical crossroads, softly emerging during moments of profound crisis. Consider gently how societies have faced wartime rationing, quietly determining who receives limited food or medical treatment. Or imagine softly the subtle yet profound dilemmas faced during pandemics, quietly deciding how to prioritize life-saving care when resources become overwhelmed. These real-world examples quietly remind us that ethical dilemmas, though unsettling, are gently woven throughout human history, subtly yet profoundly shaping societies, individuals, and moral frameworks. Quietly reflect now upon the deeper implications embedded within these ethical decisions. At their core, these dilemmas softly compel us to ask, what does it mean to survive? If the cost of survival involves sacrificing the principles and values that gently define our humanity, would survival remain meaningful if achieved at the expense of compassion, justice, dignity, or empathy? Consider softly the quiet yet profound tension within these ethical questions. Survival, after all, is a deeply instinctual drive, quietly prioritized above nearly all else. Yet gently, our humanity involves more than mere biological existence. It quietly embraces dignity, empathy, morality, and communal bonds. If survival requires sacrificing these subtle, yet deeply human values, then softly ask yourself, have we genuinely survived, or merely prolonged physical existence at the expense of our collective soul? Gently contemplate another subtle, yet profound ethical scenario. Imagine quietly a community shelter, limited in space, softly designed to protect a small group from catastrophic harm. Outside, quietly yet desperately, others seek shelter, protection, and safety. Those inside the shelter gently face a quiet, yet heart-wrenching dilemma. Should they share their limited safety, risking their own lives, or quietly protect only themselves? Gently, softly, consider the ethical implications of such choices. Should compassion or self-preservation prevail? And who softly decides these profound ethical priorities? These questions gently become even more complex when we softly consider the ethical implications of power and privilege. Quietly acknowledge that often those making ethical decisions who survives, who is sacrificed, possess social power, gently shaping outcomes in subtle yet deeply impactful ways. Historically, softly yet undeniably, vulnerable populations often bear disproportionate sacrifices, quietly forced into positions of profound vulnerability by decisions made gently elsewhere. Reflect softly upon this quiet yet uncomfortable truth. Ethical decisions often quietly reflect societal inequalities, subtly perpetuating systems of privilege, power, and vulnerability. Yet softly, gently, within this profound reflection emerges a subtle yet vital insight. Ethical dilemmas need not result in moral compromise. Quietly consider that even within harsh conditions, communities and individuals softly possess the quiet capacity for extraordinary moral courage, compassion, and empathy. History gently whispers countless examples of individuals who quietly refused ethical compromise, even at great personal cost, softly choosing compassion, empathy, and justice over self-preservation. These gentle yet powerful examples quietly remind us of humanity's profound potential to retain moral integrity, even amidst extreme conditions. Consider softly the ethical boundaries humanity might gently consider non-negotiable. Quietly reflect upon values such as dignity, compassion, equity, and justice. Subtle yet profound principles, perhaps representing moral limits that should never be quietly sacrificed, even when survival itself hangs in the balance. Imagine gently a world where such values quietly remain sacred, protected even amidst profound crisis. Is such gentle integrity possible or quietly idealistic? Gently ask yourself, if survival requires abandoning these moral boundaries, have we quietly lost more than we've gained? Now softly reflect upon a quiet yet profound philosophical perspective, that ethical dilemmas, rather than merely representing impossible choices, gently invite deeper collective reflection about what humanity truly values. Perhaps quietly, these dilemmas subtly remind us that survival alone, stripped of dignity, compassion, and justice, may not quietly represent true survival at all. Perhaps gently, these profound ethical challenges softly remind us of humanity's deeper purpose: to preserve dignity, connection, and morality, even amidst profound uncertainty or crisis. Softly imagine how communities might gently navigate these ethical dilemmas collectively, subtly empowering those most vulnerable, quietly prioritizing compassion, empathy, and mutual respect. Envision gently the subtle yet profound strength derived from shared ethical reflection, quietly choosing mutual support over exclusion, empathy over competition, justice over expediency. Perhaps quietly, the gentle yet profound resolution to ethical dilemmas involves collective reflection, subtly guided by compassion and empathy, rather than isolation or self-interest. Gently, quietly, now allow yourself to deeply contemplate these subtle reflections, softly acknowledging that ethical dilemmas, though unsettling, invite profound moral growth. Gently acknowledge that survival, while necessary, must quietly remain aligned with human dignity, compassion, and justice. Imagine softly how communities might gently cultivate moral clarity, even amidst profound uncertainty, softly reinforcing humanity's deepest values rather than sacrificing them. Reflect calmly on this delicate balance as we journey into the realm of emotional attachments. Allow your thoughts to gently drift toward a quiet moment, a soft memory of a profound connection you felt, perhaps at a time when you least expected it. Picture quietly the subtle, yet unmistakable sensation of encountering someone whose presence feels unusually meaningful, perhaps even transformative. In these quiet moments, a gentle realization dawns upon us, softly whispering of something deeper than mere companionship or alliance. Such connections, quiet yet profound, speak softly of bonds that transcend logic, necessity, or practicality, touching instead the very essence of our souls. These subtle yet powerful connections, generally known as soul ties, represent a hidden dimension of survival, quietly shaping how we navigate crisis, adversity, and uncertainty. Soul ties, softly defined, are deeply emotional bonds, quietly forged during intense, transformative experiences. Bonds that subtly, yet powerfully affect our choices, loyalties, and courage. They are quiet, profound connections, born not merely from convenience or shared interests, but gently emerging from moments of vulnerability, trust, and mutual dependence. Imagine quietly how, in times of great adversity or crisis, such emotional bonds softly form and strengthen, creating connections far deeper and more resilient than ordinary relationships. Consider gently survivors of a shared trauma, perhaps individuals who have quietly endured a natural disaster, wartime experiences, or the slow dissolution of social order. During such intense circumstances, quietly yet inevitably, powerful emotional connections emerge softly, binding individuals together in ways that defy simple explanation. Soul ties, softly and gently, represent something profoundly human. The subtle recognition that emotional survival quietly depends upon more than practical alliances or logical partnerships. Gently, softly, they speak of the soul's quiet yearning for deeper connection, a yearning intensified during moments of profound vulnerability. In these quiet yet powerful bonds, we gently discover emotional sustenance, profound trust, and subtle reassurance that we are not alone, even amidst overwhelming chaos or uncertainty. Reflect softly, for a moment, on why such connections quietly form during crisis. Perhaps gently, intense circumstances quietly strip away superficial layers, softly revealing our most authentic selves, vulnerable, frightened, courageous, compassionate. In these quiet moments of genuine vulnerability, softly shared with others, emotional bonds gently deepen, creating soul ties that profoundly influence our capacity to survive, adapt, and remain emotionally resilient. These soul ties quietly shape decisions in profound ways, subtly yet powerfully influencing loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. Imagine gently individuals quietly risking their safety, or even their lives, to protect those with whom they share profound emotional bonds. These quiet acts of loyalty, courage, and selflessness represent not merely practical choices, but gentle affirmations of emotional connection, deeply influenced by soul ties formed quietly during shared experiences of adversity. Quietly consider how these bonds profoundly affect our emotional landscape, subtly transforming our experience of survival itself. Soul ties, softly yet powerfully, redefine what survival means, quietly shifting our focus from individual self-preservation toward collective well-being, emotional connection, and mutual support. Gently, softly, survival becomes something richer and deeper, an emotional journey shared profoundly with others, guided gently by compassion, trust, and loyalty rather than mere practicality. Yet softly reflect also upon the quiet paradox embedded within these profound connections. Soul ties, though gentle and deeply meaningful, often emerge quietly in the most challenging circumstances, subtly reminding us of humanity's capacity to find profound beauty even within tragedy or adversity? Could it be gently that dystopia, rather than merely representing a breakdown of society, quietly provides opportunities for emotional authenticity, deep connection, and genuine intimacy? Opportunities rarely experienced in ordinary, stable conditions. Quietly wonder now if perhaps dystopia not only tests emotional bonds, but gently reveals or even creates profound soul ties. Imagine softly scenarios where societal structures quietly dissolve, forcing individuals into emotional vulnerability, mutual dependence, and authentic connections. These subtle yet powerful moments, gently emerging from crisis, might quietly represent profound opportunities for emotional growth, intimacy, and soul-deep bonding. History softly whispers countless examples of soul ties, quietly formed during periods of profound adversity. Consider gently soldiers who quietly return from war, profoundly bonded by shared experiences of fear, courage, and loss. Bonds gently stronger than ordinary friendships. Or imagine softly survivors of disaster, quietly remaining connected throughout their lives by emotional experiences that subtly transcend ordinary understanding. These gentle reflections softly remind us that humanity's greatest emotional strengths, compassion, loyalty, courage, empathy, quietly flourish most profoundly during intense circumstances. Perhaps gently, dystopian scenarios represent not merely threats to survival, but quiet opportunities to reconnect with our deepest emotional truths, softly fostering bonds that transform vulnerability into resilience. Yet gently, soul ties also quietly carry complexities, subtle yet profound emotional challenges that emerge alongside deep connection. Imagine softly the emotional vulnerability required to form such bonds, quietly risking rejection, disappointment, or loss. The gentle intimacy of soul ties quietly exposes individuals to profound emotional risks, subtly, yet inevitably. Yet softly consider that these emotional risks quietly represent necessary vulnerabilities, gently essential for forming authentic, profound connections. Softly reflect further upon another subtle yet powerful complexity. Soul ties, though deeply meaningful, might quietly become emotionally burdensome during prolonged adversity. Imagine softly how profound emotional connections quietly carry obligations, loyalties, and expectations that gently yet profoundly shape emotional decisions. Quietly ask yourself if soul ties, though deeply valuable, might also subtly represent emotional burdens, gently complicating survival decisions by intertwining emotional obligation with practical necessity. Yet softly, gently, we must acknowledge that emotional burdens represent inevitable aspects of profound connection, quietly reminding us that meaningful emotional bonds softly carry both profound benefits and gentle challenges. Soul ties, quietly authentic, gently represent human vulnerability, connection, and courage. Subtle, yet powerful affirmations of emotional survival itself. Imagine softly now how humanity might gently honor, protect, and sustain these emotional connections, even amidst dystopian scenarios. Perhaps gently, profound emotional bonds represent humanity's quiet yet powerful defense against despair, isolation, and meaninglessness. Imagine softly how emotional bonds, gently nurtured, might quietly sustain individuals and communities, softly transforming crisis into opportunity, vulnerability into strength, isolation into connection. Softly, quietly, allow yourself now to deeply contemplate these profound reflections. Gently acknowledge that soul ties represent subtle yet powerful dimensions of emotional survival, quietly shaping our emotional landscape profoundly. Perhaps gently, profound emotional connections represent humanity's deepest survival resource, softly sustaining our emotional resilience, quietly affirming our emotional authenticity, gently reminding us that survival involves more than physical existence alone. Now quietly, gently, breathe in these profound reflections. Imagine softly your own emotional connections, quietly acknowledging their profound impact on your emotional resilience, loyalty, and courage. Gently honor these subtle yet powerful bonds, quietly recognizing their gentle significance within your own emotional journey. Quietly breathe in this mystery as we move toward understanding our fears more deeply. Begin by gently imagining a quiet night, perhaps a moment in which you felt a subtle yet undeniable presence, a whisper of uncertainty, softly weaving its way through your thoughts. Fear, in these quiet moments, softly reveals itself, not as an enemy, but as an ancient companion, one that has traveled quietly alongside humanity through countless generations. This companion, though unsettling, carries with it an essential purpose, a purpose that gently shapes our behaviors, instincts, and decisions, subtly influencing the very fabric of our survival. Fear quietly holds a dual power within us, the ability both to protect and to paralyze. Consider softly how, in ancient times, fear served as a quiet sentinel, subtly warning our ancestors of immediate dangers lurking in the shadows. Imagine softly a distant ancestor navigating the uncertainties of a wild landscape, suddenly sensing danger nearby. Fear, softly whispering its urgent message, would instantly sharpen their senses, quicken their heartbeat, and prepare their body gently yet decisively to respond. This fear, quiet yet powerful, represented not a flaw, but a survival tool, a subtle yet profound evolutionary advantage that quietly ensured human safety across millennia. Yet softly reflect on how this ancient biological tool now interacts quietly with the complex landscape of modern life. Today, fear has become something more nuanced, quietly transcending immediate physical threats and softly entering the realm of psychological, emotional, and existential dilemmas. Fear, gently, has evolved from a simple biological reaction into a subtle yet profound emotional phenomenon, quietly shaping human experiences in increasingly complex ways. Imagine softly how fear now manifests quietly in contemporary existence. It no longer whispers warnings only of immediate physical dangers, but gently broadens to include subtle anxieties, fear of rejection, failure, uncertainty, and existential meaninglessness. Gently consider how these quieter fears softly shape emotional landscapes, subtly influencing decisions, relationships, and even our sense of identity. Anxiety, softly emerging from these subtler forms of fear, quietly becomes a persistent emotional state, subtle yet profoundly unsettling, quietly influencing our behavior, perceptions, and experiences. Yet gently ask yourself why these subtler fears emerge quietly in modern life. Perhaps softly, fear has quietly adapted to our shifting environment, softly attuned now to psychological and social, rather than purely physical dangers. Quietly acknowledge that humans, while physically safer than ever, now experience more subtle, yet profound forms of insecurity, emotional isolation, social rejection, existential uncertainty. Fear, softly recognizing these subtler threats, quietly expands its scope, gently influencing emotional landscapes in new, complex ways. Gently explore now how fear quietly triggers existential dilemmas, profound contemplations about life's meaning, purpose, and inevitability. Consider softly how fear subtly arises from existential questions, uncertainties about mortality, identity, purpose, and the future. Quietly reflect on how dystopian scenarios intensify these existential fears, softly confronting humanity with profound uncertainties about collective survival, identity, and meaning. Imagine softly a dystopian future, quietly unfolding, a scenario gently characterized by uncertainty, instability, and profound vulnerability. Fear, in this context, quietly becomes both understandable and inevitable, softly emerging from genuine threats to survival, stability, and identity. Yet gently consider how fear, if not softly managed, could quietly paralyze individuals and communities, subtly impairing judgment, undermining cooperation, and intensifying isolation. Quietly reflect now on fear's dual nature, the capacity both to protect and to paralyze. Gently imagine how fear, rather than merely debilitating, might quietly become a source of wisdom, clarity, and insight in dystopian scenarios. Softly consider whether humans might gently transform fear from a hindrance into a resource, quietly harnessing its power to inspire caution, courage, adaptability, and even compassion. Gently acknowledge historical examples, moments when communities quietly transformed fear into collective wisdom, softly guiding their survival and adaptation. Consider gently survivors of natural disasters, quietly using fear constructively, motivating preparation, cooperation, and mutual support. Softly imagine how fear, gently recognized and intentionally managed, might quietly serve as a catalyst for resilience, innovation, and emotional growth, even amidst dystopian uncertainty. Yet gently acknowledge that transforming fear requires emotional wisdom, intentional reflection, and conscious choice. Fear, quietly unmanaged, easily transforms into anxiety, subtly yet profoundly debilitating, quietly impairing emotional resilience, adaptability, and well-being. Gently recognize the importance of emotional strategies, mindfulness, reflection, community support, in softly transforming fear into wisdom rather than paralysis. Gently consider how humans might quietly cultivate emotional skills to manage fear constructively. Imagine softly emotional resilience, quietly developed through reflective practices, emotional awareness, and supportive relationships, as a subtle yet powerful tool for transforming fear into insight, adaptability, and courage. Quietly acknowledge the subtle yet profound value of emotional awareness, softly recognizing fear without judgment, quietly responding intentionally rather than reactively. Imagine gently the subtle yet profound emotional shift possible through conscious reflection and emotional awareness. Quietly envision how humans, even amidst profound uncertainty, might softly learn to recognize fear as a gentle messenger, quietly signaling areas of vulnerability, uncertainty, or necessary action. Imagine softly fear, gently acknowledge and intentionally transformed, quietly becoming a source of clarity, wisdom, and collective emotional strength. Softly reflect now upon the deeper emotional truth embedded within fear, that beneath its unsettling whispers lie gentle invitations for emotional growth, adaptation, and self-understanding. Quietly consider fear not merely as an emotional adversary, but as a gentle guide, softly illuminating emotional vulnerabilities, subtle insecurities, and existential questions requiring deeper reflection. Gently acknowledge fear's subtle yet profound emotional role, quietly guiding emotional self-awareness, authenticity, and emotional resilience. Yet softly acknowledge the profound emotional complexities involved in transforming fear. Quietly recognize the subtle emotional risks, vulnerability, emotional honesty, confronting uncomfortable truths involved in softly acknowledging fear. Gently imagine emotional environments, relationships, communities, societies that quietly support emotional vulnerability, honesty, and reflection, softly empowering individuals to transform fear constructively rather than suppressing or denying it. Quietly contemplate now the emotional environments necessary for this gentle emotional transformation. Softly supportive relationships, communal empathy, emotional honesty, and vulnerability. Imagine softly communities, gently fostering emotional openness, quietly encouraging emotional awareness, empathy, vulnerability, and constructive management of fear. Quietly recognize that transforming fear into wisdom requires collective emotional shifts. Softly cultivating communal emotional environments that quietly support emotional honesty, vulnerability, and resilience. Softly, gently, reflect now upon your own emotional relationship with fear, quietly acknowledging its subtle yet profound influence upon your emotional landscape, behaviors, and existential contemplations. Gently ask yourself how you might softly transform your own fears into emotional wisdom. Quietly recognizing fear's gentle emotional signals, softly responding intentionally rather than reactively. Quietly cultivating emotional resilience and adaptability. Nadi and the self-understanding. Imagine gently how your emotional experience might subtly transform through conscious emotional reflection, quietly acknowledging fear without judgment, softly responding intentionally rather than reactively. Quietly envision yourself softly transforming fear into emotional wisdom, quietly harnessing fear's subtle emotional signals to guide emotional growth, resilience, authenticity, and emotional strength. Softly exhale now, gently releasing emotional fears, anxieties, and existential uncertainties. Quietly allow emotional calmness, wisdom, and clarity to softly emerge, subtly transforming emotional fear into emotional insight, strength, and self-awareness. Softly acknowledge your emotional capacity to transform fear into emotional wisdom, quietly empowering emotional resilience, adaptability, authenticity, and emotional strength. Softly exhale, releasing fears as we approach the deeper enigma of human consciousness. Allow yourself to softly drift into a quiet contemplation, gently focusing your thoughts inward toward a subtle yet profound mystery, the enigma of human consciousness. Imagine quietly the soft murmuring of your inner voice, the gentle awareness of your own thoughts, feelings, memories, and desires. These quiet whispers, almost invisible yet profoundly felt, define something deeper and more elusive than mere biological existence. Consciousness, softly experienced, quietly shapes our inner narrative, identity, and sense of self, creating a subtle yet unmistakable dimension of survival that transcends mere physicality. Gently ask yourself, what does it mean to truly survive? Is survival merely physical existence, the quiet persistence of biological life? Or is it something deeper, subtler, more profoundly connected to our inner experience, identity, and sense of humanity? Consciousness quietly introduces this profound dilemma, softly whispering that survival involves not only physical continuity, but also emotional dignity, moral integrity, and the gentle preservation of our identity and humanity itself. Imagine softly a dystopian scenario unfolding quietly. Perhaps a profound change in human society, ecological collapse, technological disruption, or prolonged instability. Quietly ask yourself how such profound disruptions might affect not only our physical survival, but also our consciousness, identity, and emotional integrity. Gently consider how, amidst profound uncertainty, humanity's greatest challenge might quietly become not merely physical survival, but preserving consciousness itself, gently safeguarding dignity, emotional authenticity, moral integrity, and identity amidst profound change. Softly reflect on the quiet, yet profound role consciousness plays in our emotional and moral lives. Consciousness, gently experienced, quietly creates our sense of identity, emotional continuity, and personal narrative. Imagine softly how consciousness gently shapes our perceptions, emotions, decisions, and relationships, quietly influencing how we navigate uncertainty, adversity, and profound change. Consciousness softly embodies not merely biological survival, but emotional authenticity, identity, and dignity, quietly affirming humanity's deeper dimensions beyond mere physical existence. Yet gently consider the quiet, yet profound vulnerabilities of consciousness. Imagine softly scenarios where physical survival remains possible, yet consciousness itself becomes fragile, threatened, or diminished. Quietly ask yourself, would survival remain meaningful if consciousness, our sense of identity, dignity, and emotional authenticity became quietly compromised or lost altogether? Imagine softly how dystopian scenarios might challenge consciousness itself, quietly confronting humanity with profound questions about identity, emotional integrity, and the subtle yet profound dimensions of survival beyond biology. Gently explore now the profound emotional implications of these reflections. Consciousness, softly vulnerable, yet profoundly resilient, quietly represents humanity's deeper emotional and moral survival resources. Imagine gently how individuals and communities might quietly prioritize preserving consciousness, emotional authenticity, moral integrity, dignity, amidst profound adversity. Consider softly historical examples, survivors of oppression, war, societal collapse, quietly preserving consciousness through emotional resilience, moral integrity, and identity preservation, even amidst profound adversity. Quietly consider now a deeper, subtler question. Could consciousness itself survive profound changes in humanity's physical reality? Imagine gently scenarios where humanity quietly faces fundamental shifts, perhaps technological augmentation, ecological collapse, societal transformation, or profound biological changes. Quietly ask yourself whether consciousness, our internal narratives, identities, emotional authenticity would persist, adapt, or become entirely unfamiliar amidst profound change. Imagine gently a scenario softly unfolding, perhaps humanity quietly integrating technology deeply into biology, subtly augmenting or altering consciousness itself. Quietly reflect on how such profound integration might affect identity, emotional continuity, and consciousness. Softly ask yourself, would consciousness gently adapt, quietly incorporating new dimensions into emotional experience, identity, and self-understanding? Or might it quietly become entirely unfamiliar, transformed beyond recognition? Yet gently consider another quiet possibility, that consciousness itself might softly remain remarkably resilient amidst profound change. Imagine softly how emotional authenticity, identity, and dignity might quietly persist, gently adapting yet remaining profoundly recognizable amidst shifting physical realities. Gently envision individuals quietly maintaining emotional authenticity, moral integrity, and identity, even amidst profound biological, technological, or societal changes. Softly acknowledge consciousness's remarkable adaptability, quietly resilient, capable of emotional continuity, even amidst profound disruption or uncertainty. Yet gently acknowledge the subtle, yet profound emotional risks involved in consciousness's adaptability. Imagine softly scenarios where consciousness quietly adapts to profound changes, yet gently loses essential emotional authenticity, moral integrity, or identity. Quietly ask yourself whether such adaptations represent genuine survival or merely emotional compromise, subtle yet profound emotional loss. Gently acknowledge that preserving consciousness involves not merely adaptation, but emotional authenticity, dignity, and moral integrity, quietly ensuring that humanity's deeper emotional dimensions remain intact amidst profound change. Gently explore now the emotional environments necessary for consciousness's genuine preservation. Softly supportive relationships, emotional authenticity, communal empathy, moral integrity. Quietly envision communities gently prioritizing emotional resilience, moral integrity, and identity preservation. Softly nurturing environments that quietly empower individuals to preserve consciousness authentically, even amidst profound uncertainty or adversity. Softly acknowledge the subtle yet profound collective responsibility involved in gently safeguarding consciousness, quietly ensuring emotional authenticity, identity, dignity, and moral integrity remain prioritized amidst profound disruption. Imagine softly the profound emotional strength possible through collective emotional support, quietly ensuring consciousness's genuine preservation through emotional authenticity, identity, moral integrity. Gently envision communities quietly fostering emotional resilience, softly encouraging emotional honesty, vulnerability, empathy, moral integrity, and identity preservation, even amidst profound change. Quietly acknowledge consciousness's subtle yet profound collective dimensions, softly affirming humanity's deeper emotional authenticity, identity, and moral integrity through emotional support, communal empathy, and emotional resilience. Gently ask yourself now how your own consciousness, emotional authenticity, identity, moral integrity might quietly respond amidst profound change. Imagine softly your emotional experience, gently adapting, yet preserving essential emotional authenticity, dignity, moral integrity, even amidst profound disruption or uncertainty. Quietly acknowledge your emotional resilience, softly capable of genuine emotional authenticity, identity preservation, moral integrity, even amidst profound change. Yet gently consider the subtle, yet profound emotional choices involved in consciousness's genuine preservation. Quietly recognizing emotional vulnerability, honesty, moral courage, emotional authenticity. Softly acknowledge that preserving consciousness involves intentional emotional choices. Quietly prioritizing emotional authenticity, identity, dignity, moral integrity amidst profound uncertainty or adversity. Gently imagine yourself quietly making these emotional choices, softly prioritizing emotional authenticity, moral integrity, identity, dignity, even amidst profound emotional challenges. Gently, quietly, reflect now upon these profound contemplations, softly acknowledging consciousness as humanity's deeper emotional survival resource, subtly transcending mere biological existence. Quietly recognize that genuine survival involves emotional authenticity, identity preservation, moral integrity, softly affirming humanity's deeper emotional dimensions amidst profound change. Imagine softly consciousness, quietly remaining profoundly resilient, softly adapting, yet preserving essential emotional authenticity, moral integrity, identity amidst profound disruption or uncertainty. Pause and reflect deeply as we near the end of tonight's thoughtful journey. Allow your thoughts now to gently wander toward a quiet yet powerful human gift, one that often remains hidden amidst the noise of daily existence, softly waiting for moments of stillness to reveal its profound strength. This gift, subtle yet transformative, is the gentle power of imagination, the ability softly embedded within humanity to envision realities not yet present, to imagine futures that quietly differ from the present, and gently manifest possibilities where others see only limitation or despair. Imagination is quietly unique among human capacities. It softly transcends immediate circumstances, subtly shaping how we perceive, respond to, and ultimately transform adversity. Gently consider how imagination quietly shapes every human endeavor, from art and storytelling to innovation, problem solving, and emotional resilience. Softly acknowledge imagination as a quiet yet profound survival resource, gently empowering humanity to envision better outcomes even amidst profound uncertainty, hardship, or despair. Imagine gently how imagination softly functions as an emotional survival strategy, quietly nurturing hope, courage, resilience, and emotional adaptability, even amidst profound adversity. Imagine softly individuals quietly facing extreme hardship, perhaps survivors of disasters, conflicts, or profound personal losses, gently using imagination to envision alternative outcomes, softly sustaining emotional hope, courage, and resilience through imaginative possibilities. Softly acknowledge imagination as quietly transformative, not merely fantasy, but emotional resourcefulness, adaptability, and practical survival strategy. Quietly reflect now on the emotional dimensions of imagination, softly acknowledging its gentle ability to sustain hope, courage, and emotional resilience. Imagine softly how individuals and communities quietly employ imagination amidst uncertainty, gently envisioning possibilities, softly sustaining emotional courage, adaptability, and hope through imaginative alternatives. Softly acknowledge imagination's subtle yet profound emotional power, quietly sustaining emotional resilience, courage, adaptability, hope, and emotional authenticity amidst profound adversity. Yet gently consider another quiet dimension of imagination, its subtle yet profound practical implications. Imagine softly imagination gently influencing practical decisions, behaviors, and outcomes, even amidst profound uncertainty or crisis. Imagine softly communities quietly employing imagination not merely as emotional comfort, but as genuine practical strategy, softly envisioning innovative solutions, adaptive behaviors, and transformative possibilities amidst profound challenges. Softly acknowledge imagination's quiet yet practical significance, gently empowering genuine adaptability, innovation, and resilience amidst adversity. Gently explore now a quiet yet paradoxical reflection. Can dystopian thinking itself, quiet contemplation of worst-case scenarios, softly strengthen humanity's capacity to build brighter, more sustainable futures? Imagine softly how contemplating profound adversity, quietly considering dystopian possibilities, might gently inspire deeper imagination, genuine reflection, and emotional resourcefulness, subtly yet profoundly strengthening humanity's collective emotional adaptability, innovation, and resilience. Imagine gently dystopian scenarios, softly serving as emotional wake-up calls, quietly challenging humanity's complacency, softly inspiring deeper imagination, collective reflection, and practical adaptation. Quietly reflect upon historical examples, moments when contemplating potential adversity, quietly inspired collective emotional resilience, innovation, and genuine transformation. Imagine softly how dystopian thinking, rather than inducing despair, might gently inspire emotional resourcefulness, adaptability, innovation, and genuine resilience, softly empowering humanity to build brighter, more sustainable futures. Softly reflect now upon the subtle, yet profound emotional power embedded within dystopian contemplation. The gentle emotional clarity, urgency, and resourcefulness inspired quietly by considering potential adversity. Imagine softly dystopian thinking, quietly catalyzing emotional courage, innovation, resilience, and collective emotional adaptability, softly empowering individuals and communities to imagine, plan, and manifest genuinely better alternatives. Softly acknowledge the quiet, yet profound emotional paradox embedded within dystopian contemplation, gently inspiring deeper imagination, emotional resourcefulness, adaptability, resilience, and genuine hope through contemplating potential adversity. Quietly explore now the emotional environments necessary for imagination's genuine empowerment. Softly supportive communities, emotional courage, collective reflection, and practical adaptability. Imagine softly communities quietly nurturing imagination, softly encouraging emotional vulnerability, innovation, adaptability, and collective emotional resilience amidst profound uncertainty. Softly acknowledge imagination's subtle yet profound collective dimensions, quietly affirming humanity's emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, resilience, and collective emotional strength through genuine imaginative possibilities. Gently envision now the subtle yet profound practical possibilities softly emerging through empowered imagination, quietly innovative solutions, adaptive behaviors, sustainable practices, and emotional resilience amidst profound challenges. Imagine softly humanity quietly employing imagination not merely as emotional comfort, but as genuine practical strategy, softly manifesting genuinely better alternatives amidst profound uncertainty or adversity. Softly acknowledge imagination's quiet yet profound potential, gently transforming emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and resilience into genuine practical possibilities and transformative outcomes. Yet softly acknowledge the subtle yet profound emotional courage required in genuinely empowering imagination, quietly embracing emotional vulnerability, uncertainty, innovation, and collective emotional adaptability amidst profound adversity. Imagine softly individuals and communities gently employing imagination courageously, not merely envisioning superficial alternatives, but genuinely transformative possibilities amidst profound emotional risks. Softly acknowledge the subtle yet profound emotional courage involved in genuinely transformative imagination, quietly embracing emotional vulnerability, uncertainty, innovation, and collective emotional adaptability amidst profound uncertainty. Quietly reflect now upon your own emotional relationship with imagination, softly acknowledging its subtle yet profound influence upon your emotional landscape, decisions, behaviors, and genuine adaptability. Gently ask yourself how you might softly empower your own imagination, quietly recognizing imaginative possibilities genuinely, softly responding courageously rather than cautiously, quietly cultivating emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and genuine resilience amidst profound uncertainty or adversity. Imagine gently how your emotional experience might subtly transform through empowered imagination, quietly acknowledging genuine possibilities, softly responding courageously rather than cautiously, genuinely employing emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and resilience amidst profound uncertainty. Quietly, envision yourself softly employing imagination genuinely, quietly harnessing its subtle emotional signals to guide emotional courage, resilience, authenticity, adaptability, and genuine strength amidst profound emotional challenges. Gently, quietly, reflect now upon these profound contemplations, softly acknowledging imagination as humanity's greatest emotional survival resource, subtly transcending mere emotional comfort or fantasy. Quietly recognize imagination's genuine practical dimensions, softly empowering emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and genuine resilience amidst profound uncertainty or adversity. Imagine softly humanity, quietly employing imagination, courageously, softly transforming emotional possibilities into genuinely transformative alternatives, softly building brighter, more sustainable futures amidst profound challenges. Breathe gently now, softly acknowledging the subtle yet profound emotional possibilities quietly embedded within empowered imagination, gently recognizing its genuine potential to transform emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and resilience into practical survival strategies amidst profound uncertainty. Imagine softly your emotional experience, gently adapting, yet genuinely empowered through imaginative possibilities, quietly affirming emotional courage, adaptability, innovation, and genuine resilience amidst profound challenges. Breathe gently, knowing that imagination may indeed become our greatest survival instinct,